We're almost there. It's just a month until Kingdom Hearts 3 is here, and I figured while we wait, we might want to take a look back at where it all started. So for the entire month of January, I'll be taking a look at the most important Kingdom Hearts games. This is the Retro Cave, and welcome to In Retrospect. Imagine the year 2002. Disney and Square Enix release a strange crossover game where both Final Fantasy and Disney characters play a prominent role, together with a small cast of original characters. At this point, nobody knew what was in store for them. There were no 10 versions of every single character walking around, no deep lore, and God forbid, no time travel. No, at this point, we just had Kingdom Hearts, a fun little game about friendship where you play as Sora teaming up with Disney characters like Donald and Goofy to take down the evil Heartless in a number of Disney worlds. Not much more to it than that, really. We all know that wouldn't last very long though. Where to even start with a game like this? I suppose at the very beginning. As I said, you play as Sora, a kid who lives on the Destiny Island with his two best friends, Riku and Kairi, one of which he's definitely developing feelings for. I mean, one night after a strange storm, the three of them get separated and sent to different worlds. This is where the quest for the love of his life, his friends, starts. Sora finds himself suddenly in the possession of the Keyblade, which is exactly what it sounds like, a giant key that you can use to hit people with. As you progress in your adventure, you will unlock more and more different types of Keyblades. Some will be more melee focused, some more magic based, and others will be balanced. Even the length of these Keyblades makes a difference. Longer Keyblades actually let you stay slightly farther away from your enemies, which you may not notice at first, but it does mean you do tend to get hit a lot less. Now that you're in a new world, the plot actually gets started and you find out about Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, and the Heartless he created, monsters of pure darkness born from the darkness inside people's hearts. While that might sound complicated, you have no idea. It gets worse. Much, much worse. Of course, Sora can't deal with this all on his own, and since your two best friends aren't here, you join up with Donald and Goofy to travel from world to world to look for your friends and beat some Heartless while you're at it. Which brings us to traveling, and oh boy, you travel by Gummy Ship, which is nothing more than some on-rail segments where you shoot enemies in space. There is some customization involved, allowing you to build your own spaceships from the blocks you collect and buy. But honestly, it's not that interesting since the on-rails gameplay is slow and mostly tedious. So much even that the developers even give you a warp drive about halfway through the game, because they know you can't be asked to repeat the same boring gummy routes over and over again. Lucky for us though, this is only a small portion of the game, and the rest of the game is an action RPG, which mostly just means mashing the attack button will do wonders for you. Of course, there are magic attacks and even Disney-based summons, but spamming your melee attack works just as well, especially since your MP runs out rather quickly and it takes a while to restore. And guess how you restore it? By using melee attack, so either way you'll be doing most of your damage with melee attacks, leaving only defensive spells such as Arrow and healing spells such as Cure to be useful generally. Then there's Atlantica and Neverland, in which you get to swim and fly respectively. While I have no real issue with the flight controls, even though they're almost exactly the same as the swimming controls, I just can't deal with Atlantica at all. You can skip this world, making this one of the few worlds you don't have to complete. Once again, the developers knew they created a monster, but the reward for dealing with this pain is an upgrade to your Thunder spell, which is decent, and also a pretty good Keyblade, which you will replace within a world or two, but it certainly makes those worlds slightly easier. Yeah, I usually skip this whenever I can. Something which is way more important, however, is the abilities you unlock. These range from adding more strikes to your combo, adding powerful finishing moves to the end of a combo, to things like being able to see the enemy HP bar. Every character has its own set of abilities to unlock totally independently from each other, but throughout the game there's a couple of abilities which work on all the characters in your party, such as High Jump or Glide. The worlds you visit don't have a lot of plot progression. They loosely follow the plots of the Disney movie they are based on. You help Alice with her trial in Wonderland, you help Aladdin rescue Jasmine from Jafar, and you help Pinocchio and Geppetto escape from Monstro. While the overall plot might not progress too much, these worlds give the perfect time for some character development, and during the second half of the game, Riku starts showing up more and more too. Once your friendly rival, he seems to be going down a dark path, a path which concludes with him stealing your Keyblade in Hollow Bastion. This world has been set up to be the headquarters of the Disney villains, as led by Maleficent, which has been set up as the final boss. When Riku takes your Keyblade, however, you start to doubt that maybe Riku will be your final fight. Once friends, now enemies, both driven by the desire to find and rescue Kairi, only one fighting with light and friendship, the other with the power of darkness. And while this battle does happen, it's not the final fight. I know, by the way, Kairi kinda shows up without having a heart, and that's a bit of an issue. Anyway, after Riku and Sora are done fighting, Sora stabs himself with the Keyblade and releases Kairi's heart, which was trapped within him. This will become a theme. Turning himself into Heartless, making this a very important moment, so don't forget this. So surely the game is over now, right? The main character just killed himself. Well, no. Because of some convenient magic which is never really explained, Sora comes back to life and gets to face the true final boss, Ansem. Turns out Riku was only being evil because he was possessed by Ansem, so everything is alright and we can turn him into a marketable main character. I mean, the game looks and sounds amazing. Every world has a distinct look and feel to it, which makes it immediately recognizable, yet they don't clash with each other. Well, Halloween Town doesn't quite fit in the rest of the worlds, but Sora, Donald and Goofy get their own special Halloween designs to keep them from standing out too much in this world. And besides, it's one of my favorite worlds in the game, so I'll give it a pass. And if the art design and color palette didn't do it for you, the music most certainly will. A lot of the music has been based on the original film score, but has been recomposed to fit better as background music for a game, so basically now it's just loops. And while the original game release sounded great, having the HD remaster comes with the benefit of remastered music too. No longer are you just listening to MIDI files, now the whole soundtrack has been recorded by a real orchestra and it sounds beautiful. I seriously don't think I can name a lot of games with better music than this one, and the ones I can name are other Kingdom Hearts games or Final Fantasy games. It still is a game from over a decade and a half ago though. Even with an HD remaster you can tell its age. In the gameplay you will have to perform some platforming, something Sora's movement clearly wasn't built for, and the game in general feels a little slow and not very responsive for a modern player. The upgraded 3D models look great, but sometimes the faces are just 2D textures and that doesn't always work as well as Square Enix had hoped. So, in retrospect, this game holds up surprisingly well and is a great starting point for a series we've all fallen in love with. Or been taken captive by, depending on your point of view. It's obvious that at this point none of the plans were made for what would become arguably one of the most confusing and convoluted storylines in the entire gaming industry. This is just a simple and fun adventure. One that sucks you in, introducing more and more concepts until you find yourself drowning in information, not being able to explain yourself well to outsiders. Long story short, this is a game you have to play for yourselves, and since there's 4 versions, 5 versions if you count the Japanese exclusive Final Mix version, of this game floating around these days, it shouldn't be too difficult to get your hands on a version to play.